Hi, everybody. I'm Beth Waldman with Career Development here at CCA. Today, I'll be talking about applying to grad school. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll jump right into it. So many of you may be considering grad school. It's a really big decision. It can be career changing, but it also is an important step to really stop and consider all the trade-offs and all the preparation that you need to do, and also consider your personal timeline for preparing as well as starting graduate school. Well, first want to start by thinking about the programs to apply to. So a big question may be, do I need a graduate degree at all? This is something that would be really good to discuss with either one of us on the career development team, one-on-one, really thinking about your long-term goals as well as your current situation. Many different fields offer different opportunities with or without a graduate degree. You can consider the sort of salary range that you can access with or without a graduate degree by working within the industry without it, or pursuing the graduate degree to really accelerate things at times. For different industries, also school prestige may fall into this field. So if you are, considering academia or pursuing your art career, sometimes that can make a big difference for the sort of connections the school can offer you. But at the end of the day, also the sort of work you put into your field after the degree is very important. Other degrees, probably in a number of the design fields, enable you to become qualified at a skill level where the prestige of the school may not be as important. But depending on the school and its resources and its facilities, whether there's a research component, if there are teaching opportunities, the funding they have available, those might be things to consider in addition to whether the school prestige is important itself. So another thing to consider is the sort of ratio and availability that staff and faculty have for the students. So often graduate school programs are differ than undergraduate school programs. So again, the financial resources, the commitment of the faculty and staff can vary. So some schools may have faculty that are very busy on their research projects, and so there might be opportunities there for students to really concentrate in certain areas. In the arts, for example, you might have faculty who are involved at a national or international level. So, also considering if they're full-time faculty or adjunct faculty who are part of the graduate school program is going to be key. So when you're looking at schools, looking at the faculty in particular is probably step one, and who you might want to work with. We'll talk about that later. Looking at if you have a realistic shot of getting into this program, well, that's going to vary quite a bit based on a number of things, but depending on your department, you'll want to consider if they have standardized tests that you need to take. Often in design and in the arts or writing, it's not as much of a situation where you're taking standardized tests, but you want to really think about your portfolio, your style of writing, your style of fashion, your architectural design, really where are you headed within the field, and is it a good match for what the faculty as well as the graduates from the graduate program are doing. So every program is going to have different sort of concentrations, and looking at recent alums or MFA shows or the program, and what you can Google people on LinkedIn and see, well, where are they at if they're in this program? Financial costs are definitely something to consider. The structure is a bit different. Sometimes with graduate programs and or PhD programs, you will be dealing with a different structure of loans than you do for undergraduate school. So really look into the financial area. Sometimes at the graduate level, you might teach an intro class for the university that ends up offsetting your tuition. Some schools like Stanford or Berkeley locally for their MFA programs are completely funded. They're very small, I think 6 to 10 people in the graduate programs, but it makes a big difference. And those are schools of prestige. So that's a win-win. They are part of larger universities that have funds coming in from different areas versus schools that might be smaller, like SVA or maybe Pratt or Parsons, that you would want to look into the sort of funding or setup for your program. And of course, one of the main things you're probably considering is what is the job market for alumni from this program. So if you're going into fashion management, for example, at Parsons, or a branding program at SVA, School of the Visual Arts in New York, or if you're going to Johns Hopkins for a UX master's program, like you'll want to look at, well, what are the numbers of alumni getting into the job market, and what are the sort of jobs they get right out of school? So if you're getting an MFA in the arts or writing, that could lead to academic opportunities, and we'll talk about that later. So in considering this whole process of applying to graduate school, the deadlines and really forecasting how much time you might need appropriately to apply is really important. So the deadlines for next fall have obviously passed. Some schools do allow entry starting in the spring. So the studying for standardized tests, which may or may not apply to most of you, is usually about a 2 to 5 month period, depending on, retakes. So always leave more time for those. Letters of recommendation, your professors and are super busy because they get asked to write like 20 letters of recommendation about twice a year. So it's another thing in your favor if you give them a nice amount of time to give them a heads up instead of a week before or a month before is still kind of tight. They may have a lot on their plate. Professors may be taking sabbaticals. That's another time where it's hard to reach them. So start 6 to 8 months before your deadlines to give your professors or coworkers or managers time to write your letter of recommendation. Writing the statement of purpose is also something that needs a lot of revisions. I would definitely give yourself a few months before the deadline. You'll want other eyes on it, right? You might be asking again, did you read it? Did you read it? So be sure to give yourself a few months. Sometimes a lot of the schools ask for more than one essay. So again, feel out what your schedule is, times when you can work more intensely, times for editing, times for second eyes. Again, you can reach out to us and we can help you. We can help you edit and really even get started if you're just like, what is a statement of purpose? But we'll get into that a little bit later. Requesting transcripts. Some of you may have gone to more than one school, more than CCA. So you might have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 different schools, including Any school where you took a university level course for credit, you'll want to transfer those over, which involves reaching out to the office, finding the right person to email, and give them, a month or two, right? So look at your transcript deadlines. There's no wiggle room on that. That's usually one of the hardcore. Well, there's no wiggle room on any of it, but I would definitely be sure that there's not a hiccup in getting those over. Once you have that set up, the request for transfers, it usually is pretty hands-off, but it might just take a while to figure out who to contact at your school for that. It's usually the registrar office or admissions. So filling out the application forms. So part of the application forms include the statement of purpose and uploading your portfolios, but it's first important to really open up the form and look at all the things that they're requiring. You may not have professional shots of your artwork or your design work. You need to really be sure you're not giving them a student grade sort of look in your submission. Graduate school is a professional level, so you may want to invest in someone or find a friend who, really can photograph artwork, et cetera, and edit it appropriately so that your work looks its best. So for CCA students, your portfolio is really key, whether you're in architecture or design or the arts. So always look at all the details. So just going back to transcripts, and we're going to just go over the letter of recommendation. So every post-secondary, meaning everything post-high school that you studied at, even if you weren't a full-time student there, including any classes for credit that when you studied abroad or other classes taken at universities while you were still a high school student. So again, the transcripts are more than just CCA if that applies to you. Be sure to check any language requirements of the transcripts. If some of you have gone to school internationally, be sure that they are translated so that if you're applying for a US or UK based school, you want it to be in English. So there are online services for that. So just be sure that you look at that ahead of time so it's not a last minute crisis. Letters of recommendation, the first place to go is really thinking of your most current teachers at CCA who really know you well, know your work well, likely have worked with you in your junior and senior year, and have a good sense for your professional goals or complexity of thinking. So sometimes there are managers, workplaces where you've done summer internships. You can find a manager there who also can speak to what a bright future you have as a student, especially going into a graduate degree. So the idea is that you'll want to get these letters from people who know your character and your work as much as possible. So really think, maybe start a little list. Usually you need 2 or 3 people. So if they don't know you that well, but let's say you submitted a great project in their class, perhaps you're shyer, it's good to request a meeting one-on-one so that they get to know you a little bit more than just being impressed by your work. It's hard sometimes to always form those relationships with a lot of classes, but oftentimes we're taking these recommenders with us over a period of years. So it might be good to, show the special effort and ask for a meeting, definitely thank them for their support. They're going to be supporting you more in the future as you look for jobs. Especially if you don't get into grad school, you might be asking them again to help you support a job application. So, or residency application or fellowship application. So, sometimes people want sort of a template. it's okay if a manager says, can you write something up for me and I'll edit it. That's something we can go through one-on-one during a meeting. It's essentially giving them a sense for what you're looking for, and they may just be so busy that that's the most helpful thing for them. So yeah, so we talked about transcripts, recommendation letters. It's likely many of you are looking for masters, but also PhD programs might be a consideration for some in the visual studies or curatorial programs. If you're looking for a career in academia, also at more advanced levels, a PhD in addition to a master's may be very helpful. So when you apply for a PhD program, it always includes the master's, but some master's programs in art history, for example, like if you're looking for master's in art history at Stanford, you can only apply for the PhD program in art history, which includes the master's, but other universities will allow you to do the 2 years in art history. So masters or the master's level, master's degrees are usually 1 to 2 years. They sometimes can be 3. And of course, CCA has a number of programs, but you're really getting more concentrated in your industry in specific areas of study. So if you're going to look for a career path as a curator at a museum, they almost always require a PhD. So if you just get a master's, that's not necessarily going to get you those jobs as immediately. You might really need to prove through your curatorial work that you are at the PhD level. So as an architect and many design degrees, many MFAs, will allow you to go into academia and higher level jobs more easily. So the master's programs, as I mentioned before, like are structured a little bit differently than undergrad. They're not necessarily scholarships, but you might find external grants or scholarships to help fund that. A few master's programs might be covered by the institution with a trade-off in teaching, which can be a great experience. So that's usually a win-win. Or you might end up working in a design lab, working on prototypes, working to support a project. And PhD programs, usually come with a different sort of tuition setup, and oftentimes could provide like a living stipend and again, teaching or research opportunities. So it depends, but these are things to look for. Again, while the master's degree is sometimes even 1 year, as we have some at CCA, or there's like a master's in branding at School of the Visual Arts, which is terrific and would give you a leg up. Most of them are 2 years, so consider, the sort of financial investment and also where you want to go. If you're very focused and know where you want to go, it might be that a PhD is what you need, but it may be that the master's is all you need. So now, since you're at CCA and it's an institution that really offers a number of master's programs, you can certainly speak to the chairs of the department. You can speak, try to speak to any current graduate students. I'm sure your professors would help connect you, but understanding what our school offers and then looking at other programs too can give you a good context. I do want to go into writing your resume. So a resume and or CV for those artists and writers are going to be really, this is essential. So again, you can make a one-on-one with Josh or myself, but you'll really want to highlight your publications, your awards and honors, your skills, computer and language and studio and design, professional experience, and you can include when applying to graduate schools, applicable volunteering experience in your industry. So this would be a document that also would be great to have reviewed by us. You really get this sort of one shot for your application. You can always apply again, but as you see, it's a process. So we're here to help you. A statement of purpose is really going to be related to, why you're wanting to go to that graduate school, and your career objectives for after the end of the program. Like, it has to make sense, and they're going to want you to be very focused and really, this is such an important statement. So just like when you're applying to undergrad, this is going to be key along with your letters of recommendation, your portfolio. So again, going back to your resume, once you've created that, just like the practice of writing a cover letter, we're going to really, this is really like a strong pitch, which will have different word limitations or character limitations, really showcasing, your motivation for applying for the program. You'll really want to highlight professors who you want to work with. So this is especially important. And at the graduate level, there might be some key, people who work at that university who are running different prototype labs, who are leading a school of thought in art or writing, who, maybe the university has certain facilities that others don't. You'll want to look at the faculty and who's working in the field in what way and how that really connects with what you want to do. So there is a bit of research behind writing your statement of purpose. So this is going to be really merging what they have to offer and key people you want to work with your experience and accomplishments, your motivations, so the trajectory of your career if you go to graduate school, your academic goals for the program. They may all offer different opportunities within their program, so you want to acknowledge and connect to some of those, and be specific about the topics you want to explore. This is the area to be specific, not general. And of course, as I said before, the career objectives after the end of the program. So you may have both the writing a statement of purpose as well as a personal statement. So every application is slightly different. So the personal statement, it's going to be a little bit more of a narrative connected to your career ambitions, your experience, but it's a little bit more of your narrative, and the statement of purpose is very much connected to why this program is part of your plan, your career plan. The personal statement is really a bit more of, it can be reflective on maybe some earlier in life experiences or mentors, some challenges. Maybe you had a different career before you came to CCA. Maybe you transferred, from different schools. Maybe you lived in different places. What were certain obstacles and how you overcame them. They want to see that you have perseverance. They want to see a thread in this statement that has led you personally with, up to this point, why you are interested in this field, and also your ambitions and how the program will help you get there. So again, the statement of purpose is really about current experience and accomplishments, your motivation for this program, and how this program is shaping the direction of your career. The personal statement kind of takes you through a longer narrative, and really ties you to this career path, and also connects to your career ambitions. So again, we're here to help you with both of those. So I'm just going to put an emphasis on professors, your professors now and your professors at the different programs you're applying for. So graduate programs really can be impactful because of connections and because of teaching styles and because of facilities. Um, your professors, you should really think and speak to your current professors about the professors you're thinking of working with at, let's say, your 5 graduate schools. So there's 5 graduate schools, identify 3 professors. It could even be 1 main professor, but it makes a big difference when you speak about who you want to work with because of their research, because of their um, art practice, you know, because of other people they've taught who've then entered into the field. So this might sound odd, but it's really important to make those connections. And your professors may know some of their professors that you're trying to research. So when you get your list together, it might be good to speak to some of your professors and just say, oh, do you know so and so? Can you tell me more about them? I'm applying to this program. I'm interested in working with them. Um, if one of your letters of recommendation is coming from a professor of yours who knows one of their professors well, who might have been a former student, that can be a big win-win in getting through the door. So this would be in your statement of purpose, and the professors in the school that you want to apply to. Your personal statement, if you have both, could also echo the influence of your current CCA professor or former professors in, you know, their influence in helping you get to this point to apply to graduate school. So really, there are a lot of ways. Google, LinkedIn, going to the university's site is key. Of course, how do they describe themselves? How do they describe what they're teaching? Look at the classes that they're teaching at that school. It'll give you a good sense for what they could be teaching you. Do you connect with it? So all of these resources are out there. They don't take too long, but it's important to do that. Another balance in different schools are sometimes there are a lot of full-time professors who are much more dedicated to teaching and being in academia and or research that is on site. Many of the graduate or PhD professors might primarily just do their research plus graduate school level teaching. Some may be very active teaching undergraduate and graduate. Professors overall are still responsible for at least being active in their field at 30 or 35%. But you'll find at certain universities, the adjunct professors or visiting professors at the graduate level may also have full-time jobs or be running companies, you know, obviously have their own architecture firms or graduate practices, art practices, fashion lines. So again, if they're active in their industry, they could hire you when you get out of school, or they could recommend you. So there are different trade-offs there, depending on what you're looking for. Again, you can ask, you can see just through the school's website, if they're adjunct, if they're full-time, how they describe themselves in their short bios. It'll tell you if they're running their own firm, if they're doing international design projects, or you know, if they're represented by galleries, if they've been in biennales, what their own careers look like and how that's going to benefit you, because the connections you're making at graduate school in addition to undergrad are really key to your opportunities in the field. And lastly, there can be like this connection between professors, their teaching practices, their studio practices, and the graduate work. So you might want to look at, especially in the arts, look at maybe the past 3 years of it, you can kind of scan through it. Like oftentimes, sometimes people say if the faculty are too influential with their own style, then you'll see a very consistent sort of output in the creative style of their graduate students' work. That can be seen a little negatively. It used to be more traditional that was their job. But these days, the attitude is that can be holding people back from their own voice. So either way, it's good to see like, okay, in the past 3 years, like what some of the art or design work that was created, does it still seem exciting and open, or does it seem mundane? So these are just things to look for as far as the relationship between their professors and the portfolio work that results. Of course, for graduate school, you're going to have interviews. They may differ between virtual and in person. So there are a lot of ways to prepare. Certainly, you can reach out to us. We can do mock interviews, but really thoroughly read the website of the program you're applying for. Try your best to speak to previous students about their experience interviewing. It's likely your professors at CCA will know other students who applied, who interviewed, so maybe they'll connect you. Oftentimes they will, especially if they're still in touch with them. Prepare your answers to the commonly asked questions. Read papers in the field of study you're interested in, and that pertains to, looking at the portfolio work of other design or art or writing students. Again, I mentioned that before. Understand, the work that's coming out of this program, and hopefully you're impressed and you connect and you want to be there. You also want to think about what you're bringing to this program. So why should the school admit you? So when you're preparing your personal statements and your statement of purpose, you're going to be hashing through a lot of this material, but it's important to do mock interviews or practice the conversational part about, you might write a list of what are the 3 things that you bring to this program that might be unique. Maybe the program's in New York and you're in California. Maybe you focus more on sustainability or different themes that are different from the themes at that program. Maybe even peeking into their undergrad program if they have one, and seeing how your own education stood out differently. Maybe it's something in your life story or professional story that really makes you a great contributive member and part of their program, and why they should admit you. And so again, all the things I said before should be in your back pocket. Why you need this graduate degree from this program to get to where you want to go. So any deeper projects that you've done, more in-depth projects that you've done, likely your senior year, junior, senior year, or throughout your career time after CCA, will be things that you want to be ready to talk about with passion and in depth and specifically. So you'll want to really talk to them about the concept, your process, and the outcome, how you contributed to someone else's project or lead them through some of your own. And again, interviews are going to ask you for specifics. So what interests you about this program? You should have outlined that already in the statement of purpose, why you'd like to work within this program. Again, the statement of purpose would be the exercise you do to answer all of these. But since this is a conversation and you have a little more time, you can elaborate. And of course, you've also answered this in the statement of purpose and personal statement. What are you planning on doing after you complete this program? You should be pretty focused with that answer, or at least know a couple choices, or oftentimes in creative work, it might be starting a firm as well as teaching, or, working at a big firm while also, and maybe exactly what you want to do, but it should be focused within the industry, even if you don't know the exact answer. That's what planning is, but just stay positive and confident that this program is going to help you get to the next level, if that's what your choice is. So again, within design and art, your portfolio is going to really be such a big part of why you get in. You'll want to look at all the specs, the requirements from the application. Some will allow, 10, some will allow 20. They may be looking for different directions from your work. It's really got to be work that is at the same level. So you will have had practice with that already, but maybe you've had 5 years since undergrad. So whatever it is, it needs to be your most current and your best work. And look at the specs to think about if you can submit images, videos, what format, the length of your reels. You'll likely need an online portfolio link, like a website, something professional, or maybe in architecture, it's an issue link, but really this should be the best presentation of your portfolio to date. You want to think about the unfolding, the order, the narrative of your portfolio. They're going to be looking at a lot, so definitely think about how to wow them immediately and then keep wowing them. So maybe a more subtle entry point is not where you want to go. You'd really want to show them the wow and have them keep wanting to go in. So first impression, and then keep it strong. And some may define what they're looking for. They may want 3 design projects that are speaking, 2 to the commercial industry, 1 to the private sector. Some may be looking for just a very consistent voice. If you're an interdisciplinary artist, some may be asking for different writing submissions of different lengths or different types. So really read the instructions. If you're not submitting things per their instructions, you're already placing yourself out. So we'll leave room for questions, but I am reachable as well as Josh for one-on-one sessions where we can really go through this with you personally. You can reach out to us at careers@cca.edu. We're always sharing a lot of opportunities on Instagram for jobs, even things to think about that may be ideas for your future. So brainstorming your career is always a good idea. Handshake's a great place to look. Also, even just to get an idea for what's out there. But you can email either one of us and set up an appointment. Thank you so much. And I'll stop the recording now.